Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We're committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Our guest today is Jewel Edward Love Jr. He is the founder of Black Executive Men, a network of corporate leaders. He has a degree in clinical psychology. And as a coach and facilitator, he helps his clients meet their professional goals and make more money. I love that about you, Jules. Jules has helped hundreds of Black men acquire mid to senior level leadership positions at top companies. He uses his unique 3M system of mindset, motivation, and massive action to help his clients reach their full potential. Jules has worked with Google, Microsoft, PayPal, and other companies to acquire Black male talent at the executive level. He is writing a new book entitled Born Driven: the executive blueprint for Black men in corporate America. Jules, welcome to the show today.
Stephen, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
All right. Hey, look, I got a ton of questions to ask, but first, a reminder to our listeners and our viewers: follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Your support matters. It helps us attract talent like Jewel Love. Hey, Jewel, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a mix of Oakland and Alameda, California,
Mhm.
two cities that are right next to each other. Very different. One is more, it's a bigger city. It's just, very diverse, etc. Alameda, although diverse, it's much smaller and more like a suburb in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, that's a nice part of the country. I've been around San Francisco and some of the smaller towns surrounding it. What was it like for you growing up in that region of our country?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it growing up in the Bay
Mm.
Area. So I was just like Bay Area person, local pride through and through, love the sports teams, love the cultural diversity. So, I mean, on Mondays, you could eat shawarma, Tuesdays, Thai food, Wednesdays, Japanese food, Thursday, pizza, just multicultural in that way. Yeah, it was a great experience growing up in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be able to be exposed to various countries in one locale. So, where are you currently? What's your current residence?
So I currently live in Mexico
Uh-huh.
after um, the pandemic started. I decided, you know what? I'm gonna kind of pick up roots here and travel around Latin America, specifically South America, which I did and did for about two, 2 years in South
Mm.
America, and did all my business on the road. So what they call digital nomad, working
Yeah.
from my laptop right here and my phone as well. And then I landed in Mexico and decided to live here. So I've been here for over a year and a half. It's a really
Mm.
great, I'd say, maybe like a midway point of sorts between the United States and the rest of Latin America and South
Mm.
America. Only 4 hours away from the San Francisco Bay Area, five from New
Mm.
York. So, yeah, this is home.
Yeah, yeah. So, what was the pandemic like, in that part of the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was traveling around various places. I started in Colombia, I went to Ecuador, I went to Peru, traveled down to Argentina, over to Brazil, and then to Mexico. By the time I got to Mexico, it was kind of winding down on restrictions and people wearing masks and things like that. But what was it like? Probably fairly similar to what it was like in the United States. A lot of
Uh,
masks, a lot of people spending time at home. However, there's not as many virtual digital jobs in
mm.
South America, probably Latin America as a whole. So people needed to go to work. That was
Mm.
still happening. They couldn't not go to work. The government wasn't giving them money to like buy, not much anyway, to really
Yeah.
survive. So, life went on. Maybe there was a little bit more fluidity in terms of people still connecting and going out and things like that compared to the United States. But there were many,
Yeah.
maybe restaurants or certain nightlife activity. These things were a lot of it was closed for a while.
Yeah. So, how's your Spanish?
So, mi español está bien, pero es intermedio. Necesito practicar, seguramente. Hablar en temas como médico o de ley, like law and medicine and things like that. I would need to practice because it's más avanzado que yo, ¿cómo se dice? Yo sé than what I know.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, look,
it's intermediate.
that's pretty good from to my ear for someone who didn't grow up. Well, did you learn some Spanish growing up in the Oakland area?
Ah, sí, yo aprendí, no. I studied Spanish in high school, and
Uh-huh.
3 years I did very well there. And
Okay.
and just speaking with friends, like I was saying, San Francisco Bay Area, it's just very
Uh,
multicultural. So friends that speak Spanish, and in college, friends that
yeah.
speak Spanish. So I just kept it up, but
Yeah.
I'm really about, taking the extra steps. So before I started traveling, I got a Spanish teacher actually based in Latin America, and we
Mhm.
worked together one on one for several months. And I also formed relationships, just new friendships with people in Latin America. There's different
Yeah.
kind of like language exchange programs online. And so I got to practice and refresh and really, advance my skills before I actually landed.
Yeah. That's fantastic. It's a good thing to be able to speak more than one language. I studied French over 50 years ago, and I'm so
Nice.
rusty, it's shameful. But hey,
Yeah,
look,
come
you
back.
wrote
I'm
something,
sure it come back.
yeah, I guess so. But look, you post a lot of stuff on social media, and
Yeah.
one thing that you posted caught my attention when you talked about being in Latin and South America, gave you new insights about the importance of the access of capital. Do you remember writing something about that? And if so, what were
Yeah.
you conveying to your audience?
Yeah, so it's essentially that there's a lot of immigrants coming to the United States, and sometimes it's because um, just sure the way of life and certain freedoms and just cultural differences that exist in the United States that don't exist or in very small portions or quantities in the country they're from, or maybe there's some insecurity and safety concerns, things like that. Many times it's for financial reasons. The many people that I met traveling in Latin America, I mean, there's people that were talking about, I'm going to the United States, legally or illegally. And I met both people from both camps. And, because once you're there, it's not like a secret thing about people coming to the United States illegally. People talk openly because who's gonna do anything down there? They're not in the United States. So you start getting a part of those conversations and hearing like how they're talking. And they, for the most part, love their own country and want to live in their own country. Colombians, for the most part, they love it there. Brazilians love it there. Argentinians, they love it there. But the economic conditions are challenging. So they seek opportunities, primarily in the United States, maybe Spain, something like that. So just talking about this whole concept of wealth is built in community. And as
Yeah.
Americans and American citizens, we have a profound privilege to have access to the American economy just because of the jobs that are available for us based on our nationality and our citizenship and just all the opportunity that people from other countries, they'd have to apply for certain visas, special permits, certain, maybe even citizenship. It's not so accessible
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
get a great paying job in another country like it is in the United States.
Yeah. I like that post. That made me think about a lot of things. But you also talked about, you might have already mentioned it in your comment a moment ago, is that is if you're going to make money, you need to belong to some type of network.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought about the NCAA. We just had the championship game on Monday night. The NCAA, I thought, is a big network.
It's a network.
So talk about that network and being able to capitalize on that network to advance yourself financially.
Yeah, absolutely. Networks are key. So let's just even, give you the example of, let's say you were born into a wealthy, like billionaire status family, and that's your initial network. what is the likelihood of you being a billionaire or of, you know, having a net worth of, let's say, 100 million or more? It's extraordinarily high because that's the water that you swim in. So you're going to know the vote. I mean, first off, it's just going to be an inherent that comes right down to you, but you're going to know the vocabulary. You're going to know the players. People are going to be sending you deals, deal flow. It's about investments at that level. It's not about your 9 to 5 job. You're not working a 9 to 5 and making 100 million. It's going to be through your investments that do really well. So even that information typically flows in networks. Now, I started off as a licensed psychotherapist, so not
Wow.
corporate. And this was 8 years ago. That's when I started Black Executive Men. And I started learning about corporate America and, C-suite and executive vice president and skip level manager and market penetration and, even stuff stock price and how to, board roles, like all that stuff that comes along with it, and started to really kind of master what's going on in that world. And what I learned is that many of my clients, they only saw what was right there in front of them, what was going on at their job, at their desk, on their team, maybe in their division. If they're a VP or a C level, sure, they got a greater overview of what's taking place, but maybe not outside of their company or outside of their industry. But I had a front row seat to Black men on all levels of seniority, all
Mm.
industries, paying me to tell me about their life and about corporate. And so I got beyond a PhD level of education on Black men in corporate America and what works
Mhm.
for us and what doesn't. And one of the things that I saw is that the higher that we were in these
Mhm.
organizations, typically the more networked up guys are. What does that mean? It means that
Mhm.
they're a part of exclusive or elite level networks. Now, in our
Yeah.
community, there's kind of a bad tone around gatekeepers. It's kind of, oh, that's a Black man in a senior role who's trying to be the only one and trying to keep everyone else out. I
Yeah.
look at it very, very differently now, learning and knowing what I know, that there just are certain elite networks that people
Mhm.
are sharing jobs, they're sharing investment opportunities, and they're working and they're collaborating together. However, there are networks that they have a cost to enter, and it's not always financial. It could be a level
Mhm.
of seniority, it could be just a certain interest. For example, like let's say you're interested in, AI. Like I have a Black men's AI cohort that I lead. And so if you have that interest, you could kind of join that network. And guess
Mhm.
what's happening in that network? We have startup founders that are talking about new ideas. We have angel investors and VCs that are looking to invest. So we're doing business together and we're growing this
Yeah.
economy together.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is, and I'll wrap on this point, is there's the mentality that many of us, including me, have had around being a lone wolf. And that's the most powerful position because you don't have to depend on anybody else and
Mhm.
you don't have to be vulnerable in that way or admit maybe like a weakness or not knowing something. That's not it, guys. Not in corporate. It's
Mhm.
about teams, it's about networks, it's about winning together.
Yeah, and you wrote, and tell me if you still take this stance. You said, if you don't belong to a network, establish one. Do you still feel that way?
I definitely do. I've had to, I don't know if I've had to do that, but frankly, I've enjoyed doing that. When I'm out
Mhm.
there networking in the world, like even just today, I posted something on LinkedIn, and I know when you all are seeing this, it's going to be a little bit later, but I posted on LinkedIn about brothers getting director and VP roles and how you need to network outside of your immediate group because
Yeah.
eventually you're going to exhaust your current connections with do you have any, more or less, do you have any roles available to your company? And you're going to have to break out of that and go to people that you
Mhm.
don't know. And so I was like, why don't we do this? And I said, guys, go ahead and just put in your city, and I'm going to put you in a Black men's networking and job seeking group here on LinkedIn. And so guys just start, I'm in Philly, I'm in DC, I'm in New York. And I just, one
Wow.
of them was already made the New York group. So I just plug guys in there but now I'm going to create a Philly group, a DC group, a Dallas, Fort Worth group, and just get guys networking together. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun, it's social,
Yeah.
people can get jobs. I don't know if that group existed before, but
Mm.
I enjoy creating them, so I just created it. So if you're out there and what you're looking for doesn't exist, why not just get 4 or 5 people together? I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be black men. It could be, whoever you want or whoever you connect with, and just start fielding opportunities together and sharing job
Yeah.
opportunities together.
Well, I tell you what, that pumped me up because, if you look at my background, the Possibility Action Network. So I share what you're saying.
Ooh,
Hey, look, hey, Joel, why don't we roll back a little bit and touch upon your education? Why did you choose Black Studies as an undergraduate major?
I just loved it. I thought it was amazing that I could go to college and learn about Black history and get a
Yeah.
degree in it. I mean, I was just so passionate about it. The conversations were rich. It was just fascinating to learn about our history and have a classroom and have education. I mean, I knew some about Black history, but it was probably just about average-ish knowledge. I
Yeah.
mean, my dad, he really taught me a lot of things about uh, I'd say certain political leaders and it's even like spiritual philosophies out of our community as a kid. But to be able to spend 4 years leading authors, professors, every quarter talking about our history and culture and the amazing things and the challenging things, and for me to think about, well, how do I want to fit? How do I fit? And how do I want to fit into this narrative and make my mark and have an impact? And so
Yeah.
one day I'm in those books that those professors are talking about. Check out this guy, and he's a part of this tradition and lineage and has a legacy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I just loved it.
That's great. And then you went on to graduate school and clinical psychology. Wait a minute. What prompted that, Jewel?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a student of life and have always
Mm.
been interested in studying religions and spiritualities. I just think they speak to that greater aspect of why are we here, what's possible for each human being, how do we even develop ourselves. And I was definitely familiar with personal development work, but
Yeah.
not pure on locked in psychology and how that works to transform a person. And so once I started learning about that, I wanted a real firsthand experience of what was it like to work with a psychologist to go through a process of personal development and transformation. So I worked
Mm.
with a psychologist for 2.5 years, top tier guy down in Los Angeles, had a phenomenal experience, and in that process said, my goodness, you can get paid pretty well to talk to people for a
Mm.
living. And once I figured that out, I was sold on becoming a therapist, psychotherapist. I went to school, I got my master's, and I started Black Executive Man.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems to me, and yeah, I guess you didn't plan it this way, but there seems to be a perfect marriage between Black studies, clinical psychology, and what you currently do. Did it just work out that way, or was it there's something in your mind saying, something, I'm going to put these two things together?
Yeah. I'm a believer in destiny.
Mm.
So in my mind, there was kind of a preordained kind of place that I, was destined for.
Mm.
Now I know that's a certain spiritual kind of perspective and philosophy, but it just lines up with me that this plan had already been in motion somehow from somewhere. So I think it was just really my destiny to study these things and
Mm.
become the man that I am and have
Mm.
the impact that I have. But
Mm.
to answer your question, I think it is a beautiful marriage between the two because in our community, number one, there's so much healing that we need.
Mm.
And it's not just related to our community, but to do so in, frankly, a certain cultural way and avenue that really speaks to us. So I think putting those two together um, really was a place for not only healing but empowerment to happen.
Mm.
And that's something that, I was able to experience in my own life and then start providing that. But then there was the third piece, which then ultimately led me to coaching. which is focusing on brothers in the corporate space. Now,
Hmm.
growing up, great dad, great mom, we weren't wealthy. Let me just say that growing up. So, it's definitely you got to work for what you want and what you're going to get. Like that was locked in from a young age, and it served me very well. And yet, meeting these brothers who were making 200,000, 500,000, 1.2 million a year, great family men, fathers, husbands, super ethical, give back mentality, volunteering in the community. I said, I wasn't, um, I didn't have that much access or direct access or even awareness that this, what I would call kind of a hidden class of black men, even existed when I grew up. And so when we look at it, and we look in our community, and when we look at healing, and we really look at what are some of the solutions. And in my mind, to have black men that are absolutely winning in life for me was such a solution that I think could benefit even our community as a whole if more of us knew about these guys and had connection to them. So once I locked in on that, it had the Black History Studies piece, it had the healing piece, but it also had this powerful, just this empowerment piece. And that's ultimately what I gravitated toward and now
Hmm.
do more of the executive coaching for black men in corporate America.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you, why did you that you formed this network, Black Executive Men? Is it something that just came to you like bam, or is it something that evolved for you?
Yeah. I mean, my dad was a phenomenal marketer. So even as a kid, he helped me to develop my marketing mind. So I have a really good marketing mind as well. And psychology just made it ridiculous in terms of
Yeah.
studying people and what are their psychological drivers. So I remember
Mm.
meeting with one of the first brothers, first client, one of the first, not the first, but one of the first clients that I had. And he was a Harvard Business School grad, suited and booted, come from a great family, was about to get married, like all the right things, just awesome guy, and still humble down to earth. But he
Mm.
was earlier on in his career, and I just thought about it. Well, what is the highest level? He's on this ladder. He's lower on the ladder, but where does it go? Well, it goes to become an executive, and he's a black man. So it's an identity that he
Mm.
could align with that's has like shared values that he would be excited to associate with. So when people hear my brand, even though they don't know exactly what it is just from those three words,
Mm.
they like it already because it speaks to their values,
Mm.
typically. So I realized that was the case and said, this is going to be a winner in terms of a name. But I think as I've grown over the years, just realizing how amazing these men are is I love spending time around them and learning
Mm.
how do they think, how do they move, how do they invest their money, how do they move through corporate, and how do we take that information and then share it with the greater Black community so we can all win. So I'm just looking at these guys as kind of like I'm looking at an electrical, socket over here, but having
Yeah.
so much power and being able to plug in to these guys and then share that, kind of light up the town with the knowledge that they and wisdom and
Yeah.
guidance that they have to share.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I know we'll talk about your novel in a little bit, but I think you got a few more books in yourself about these things that you're just talking about. Hey, look, but I got to
Absolutely.
ask you now. You know, I as I thought about talking with you, you have an image of black men. You just kind of share that, especially black executive men. And then I thought, what about the media image of black men? We got the media image, but you don't see black men, especially executive black men, in that way. So, talk to us about a little more. Let me just throw some things that I saw you post about your thinking. You said, they're intelligent, responsible, they're compassionate. And I said, wait a minute, this is different from what the media is saying. So, say a little more. If you agree, if you disagree, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think on one side it's very sad, unfortunate, and limited. And I think it probably just kind of then speaks to this last piece of the puzzle, around, frankly, the opportunity. So it's kind of like they talk about, how many millionaires are made during economic depressions and things like that. It's because they're able to identify assets at a very, or acquire them at a very low price, and when the market picks back up, they could, buy low, sell high. So they can buy up a bunch of land or a bunch of businesses or stocks from a distressed company or something like that. The market turns and they can sell it for very high. We're very devalued in the corporate world. They're not
Mm.
looking for us to be the first one to be the executive, unfortunately. We have quite a few battles to fight, but also think because that's the case, we just have so much value. I think if we're presented in the right light, if you will, to, I think, really, number one, start landing a whole bunch more executive roles. That's the first
Mhm.
thing. I think the second thing is, there's a whole lane in terms of the
Mhm.
marketing media world, because we want to see us winning for sure. And
Yeah.
a lot of other people want to see us in a positive light as well. So, because there's that gap in the marketplace, the opportunities through the roof to provide media and marketing, entertainment, services that show us how we really are to the rest of the world. And so that's how I see it. I see this unfortunate positioning we've been put in,
Mhm.
maybe just this country, maybe in others as well, as truly an opportunity of a lifetime to present us
Mhm.
in a different way. And I know people will buy if it's presented in the right way.
Understood. You make a bold promise. I'm calling it your promise to the people that you coach. And let me just share with you, and I want you to respond to it. You said, and I might have, changed some things up, but tell me if I get this close to what you meant. We assist, referring to Black executive men, we assist Black executives in landing impact driven jobs with the appropriate compensation package anytime they want. Did I represent you or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, the anytime they want, we should probably qualify that. So typically it takes people 3 months to 6 months, especially an executive, 3 months to 6 months. If they're working with a search firm, that can definitely, that has, ready to hire roles, that can definitely speed things up. But on average, you're looking at 3 months to 6 months to land a role. It's not a guarantee, however, and the reason why it's not a guarantee is because, for instance, if we just stick with my organization, we don't have the job to give you. So we're not the
Mhm.
one hiring you. So we don't have that ultimate control. The second thing is we can't determine how much work or effort the client is going to put in on their own job search. So, for example, if you have a guy who shows up and says, "Yes, I want to work with you, but I'm only willing to connect with people inside my own network because I'm shy or I'm just not familiar with, kind of cold outreaching to people," that's going to take a lot longer,
Mhm.
probably, than somebody who says, "Yeah, I am open to sending out 40 connection requests to people I've never met before that are at companies I want to work at to get conversations going with them and then get
Mhm.
referred internally to their recruiter for a role." 5 times more likely to get a role if you're referred internally. So a lot of it is going to depend on how willing to take action, massive action, and new action the client is, in terms of the time it will take to get them a new role.
Yeah, but your stance is that it's possible,
Sure.
and seems to be appropriate. And, in fact, your novel. I'm going to just throw it in now since I'm thinking about it. I love the primary title, "Born Driven," and the first thing I thought, Jewel, hey, that's Jewel. He was born driven. Is it
100%.
you? Oh, okay,
No,
all
it's
right.
interestingly not me. But and I love this book. This book it's amazing already. So it's something, it's definitely me, that quality, but it's something that I've seen in my clients. Because for my clients, whether they're dark skin, light skin, tall, short, wavy hair, curly hair, whatever it is, they all have the quality from a poor family, broken family, mother, maybe, father on, alcohol, mother, Harvard, whatever, or the reverse, whatever it is, they all have this quality, and they've had it, most of them have had it their whole life. Even if they succeeded and their other family members didn't, where they were just driven. It was something inside of, I'm literally saying, they were born with this quality, and they've had it, and it's drove them. Whether there's racism or no racism, good economy, bad economy, available opportunity, they have to create the opportunity. It's just a battery in their back. And so I said, this is this quality that unites all of these guys. And so that's why I made that title. But the book is actually about two guys, fictional characters, Mike and Phil, and they have a chance meeting in an airport lounge, and it's on a layover, and it's 20 years after they graduate college. Now, they both went to Morehouse together for undergrad. They both went to Harvard Business School together for graduate school. Haven't seen each other since. And it turns out Mike now has a 7-figure career, annual salary, includes bonus equity, is on a speaking tour at high impact in mentoring youth, all these top quality in a C-level role. He's a COO, major corporation. Phil, however, mind you, same educational background. Phil is topped out, is a senior manager, hasn't had a promotion for 5 years, and he's earning somewhere around 220. So you got guys same background, but then they sit down and they start exchanging notes. Phil's mind is blown with where Mike got to. And he says, you know what, let's look at his watch. And when are you flying out? They got a few hours. Can you tell me what you did to reach the top? And Mike really asked him, he says, are you sure you really want to know? Because if I tell you, I only want to share this with you if you're actually ready to take action. Phil is frustrated. He doesn't know what else to do. He says, I'm ready to make a change. And so for the next 10 chapters, Mike lays out the steps that he took and coaches Phil in real time to help up-level his career as well. So that's the story, Mike and Phil, Born Driven.
Okay, we're looking forward to that book. It hasn't come out yet, right? Still in process, the book? Okay,
yes.
All right. Look, I got to bring you back when this book comes out. We got to look more carefully at it.
Oh, love to. No, this is going to be incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And you acknowledge that there's some heavy lifting, in the corporate world. I mean, you acknowledge
Absolutely.
that. Let me throw one thing in before I'm going to look, because I see something else that I got to touch on. But you said, in fact, you made a post about, let me see if I can pronounce it the way you wrote it, brothers hiring brothers, and the backlash sometimes they may get, because the assumption is that if you're a Black executive, you're bringing on a Black person because, but you're saying that's the hogwash. Tell us about that. That's what I think. That's one thing I consider is this heavy lifting, this person navigating the corporate world and making hiring choices based on qualities, not based on anything else.
Yeah, so that post is one of the most powerful posts that I've shared on LinkedIn. And it also talks about executive racial bias. So we're talking about brothers who are, let's say VP, sure, director, senior director, but more like, yeah, we'll include them for sure in VP and C-level. And making hiring choices for their teams and divisions and departments. And if they're a majority non-Black organization, and they're one of the only or few brothers at that level or Black people, period, at that level of seniority. And then they, let's say, hire on 2 Black men and a Black woman onto their team out of 5 new hires. Well, people around them may think, oh, did he hire them because of racial solidarity? Or did he hire them because they were the best fit for the role in terms of qualifications? And that is a bias that can plague Black executives as they move through corporate America. And so we call it walking the tightrope. Now, some executives just come to the place where they're just bold. I don't care. This is my thing, and they have to deal with it. And that's just how they move. Okay. Hey, if it works for you, keep doing it. but it doesn't work for everybody quite in that way all the time. So you got brothers who were walking the tightrope of both wanting to hire the best person for the role, both, but then being mindful of the people that are around them and how they're going to perceive if they hire um, black staff at any number, one, two, three, four, five, or in the tens or the hundreds, you name it. So that's really that tightrope, and that's why I put the post out there more of an acknowledgement than a pure on solution. But the picture below, which is just text, it says brothers should, something like brothers should hire brothers for roles. It speaks to that innate desire that we have to uplift one another and support one another. So it's really doing this dual approach. So it's doing this psychological affirmation over here, but then this acknowledgement of, frankly, what can be a pain point in the actual text of the article there.
Yeah, and I also like, and I don't think I stretched it as I took a look at you about the competitive world, the competitive corporate world. And the analogy that came to me was the competitive athletic world or sports world. And you say it seems to me that you tell your guys, it's okay to compete,
Yeah.
in this world.
Because and folks listen, I have a podcast as well, and it's positive focused, like Stephen, like yours is as well. And I put out something unique, which is expectations. And I find this to be unique because many times in even the coaching in the corporate coaching world, it will be more information or maybe or suggestions on these are best practices. You can consider this. Not on my especially podcast, it's an expectation for what my clients do. That's a very different approach. Psychologically, it hits a different lever. And one of those things is for my guys to hit seven figures. Now, full transparency, I'm not at seven figures annual income. I just put that out
Not
there.
yet.
Not yet. I
Not
will,
yet, Joe.
definitely will be for sure. But I'm climbing the ladder like many of my clients. But the reason why I even put that out there is because in working with all my clients, I look at the best practices. I look at who's doing the best amongst us and set that as a standard for us all to, number one, even have awareness. When I started finding out a handful of my clients were making seven figures annually, it blew my mind. I only thought this money was being made in, let's say, the entertainment or sports world. So to learn about it, I was like, oh, this is incredible. Oh, well, then this is possible for me too. So I took that standard and said, guys, I expect you to make seven figures. Now,
Yeah.
some guys, and I'm open to the pushback, some guys say, well, that's not my goal, or, that's not my goal. And then some guys say, I didn't even know that was possible. And other guys say, now that I know that's possible, I'm going to go for that goal as well. And it becomes this very aspirational thing that opens their mind to, oh, I can get to the C-suite. Oh, I can go into private equity. Oh, I can have a board role. Oh, I can make seven figures. That's possible for me too. And not only is it possible, there's someone in this world, and it might be the only one, who expects me to reach that level of success in the corporate world. And that's a very powerful relationship to have. So
Yeah.
Competition, 100%. But Stephen, I'll tell you, and this is going all the way back to my therapy days, the biggest competition that we have is with our own self and how we view ourselves in, like you are promoting with your organization, what's possible for ourselves.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we're going to get more into that in a moment. But, I like it when you say, you help the black men you coach discover their competitive edge. I love that. So let me slide. All right. So with that, this positive outlook, you're not denying all of the stuff that's in the world, all of the stuff that's in the United States. You're not denying that.
Not
But
at
all
all.
that's in the world, yep.
There's the reason the company exists.
Yeah, you seem to be saying to, as I read, I like to look, Jew, I like to take a look at the people I'm talking to. But you seem to be saying to the guys, hey, what's holding you back may not be this, it may be something else. So let's look at some of those limiting beliefs or limiting self talk that may hold people back and then kind of move on from there.
Yeah. So I mean, the piece around racism, institutionalized racism, one-on-one racism, bias, and how, and all the ways that it showed up in the past and that it shows up today. Um, I think we as the community have a lot of people who are focusing on improving that tendency within our society. And many times it falls under the diversity, equity, inclusivity bucket. And we have, I don't know how many, but at least thousands of professionals and people in the political world and social justice world that are focused, I mean, every day in, day out, they're focusing on battling and fighting that. So we work in collaboration. That is not my primary position or angle in the market. Mine is with racism and discrimination and bias and all these things happening to the degree that they do. And I want to put an asterisk by that, and I want to talk about that right now, which is that we often think that we're all having the same experience, but I learned in talking to my clients, there are different experiences that guys are having. So, and I noticed three. One is you have the side of the spectrum where you got brothers who view being a black man as uh, uh, it's going to add to their challenges of how they're going to be perceived and opportunities they get in the corporate workplace. And so it's a constant element in their mind of some way, shape, or form, even if they don't say it out loud, this is going to lead to discrimination, which is going to hold me back, make me lose my job, not get promotions, raises. Got it. Then you got guys that are on the center of the spectrum. They know racism exists, but they don't think about it that much. Now, this is after working with brothers thousands over 8 years. They know, they see the same stats. They work at the same company, same seniority. They're having a different experience. They don't think about race or racism that much. It doesn't take up much of their mental space. However that came to be, that's what they're experiencing. And then you got guys who view being a black man as a superpower. And they say, because there's so few of us here, of course I'm going to get the role. Of course I'm going to get the promotion. Same company, same racial dynamic in the United States, vastly different outlook on how being a black man impacts their career outcome. So with all that being said, my emphasis is on what can we, given all that's taken place in the past, present, future, what is it that we can do now to win? Is there something we can do? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I help them using the best practices that I've discovered and frankly, wisdom and insights that are in their own subconscious or in their own mind and help them say, well, what if you took action on that? Let's go ahead and measure those results. And it has worked, I want to say categorically, every single time there is something that they can do to advance their careers. So I kind of wanted to lump in what some of those thoughts are and some of those mindsets with the larger framework that I work in to help my clients get results.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, your clinical background suits you perfectly for what you're doing. But look, this is a good spot, Jewel, for you to tell us about your, I call it, well, you call it your 3M system.
Absolutely. And I like that you went over it earlier. And so really starting off with the piece around motivation, and then we'll get to mindset. But the motivation, I link it to the 100% formula, which is giving it 100% at whatever it is that you're doing. It's interesting. I had a client once and a sharp guy, but it's why people come to coaching or therapy, but in this case, coaching, because we all have blind spots. And by definition, we can't see them ourselves. So we need other people to help typically point them out for us to then see what we want to do about them. So it was a guy who was wanting a promotion, Fortune 500 company, wasn't getting it. So I started to drill down what's going on. Are you adding value? Do people see you as valuable? Let's look at it. What's going on in meetings? Are you sharing? He says, no, I'm not really sharing in meetings. I'm like, okay, why not? He says, well, other people are sharing. They seem to know more kind of what's really going on. Well, okay, how do they know what's going on and you don't know what's the same company, what's happening? He says, well, there's notes that go out before the meeting takes place. Now, I already know exactly where this is going. And I said, okay, so they're reading the notes so they know what to talk about, right? He said, yes. I said, okay. When are you reading the notes? He says, during the meeting. I said, no, that's not going to work at all. Of course you don't have something to say because they're talking about it and you're just learning about it. Let's do this. Next meeting, let's have you read the notes ahead of time. And he gets it, right? He's like, of course, how did I not see that? So these are the angles and aspects where guys are not, even if they think they're giving it 100%, there's tweaks that they can make to truly be giving it 100%. And so I tie that into the 100% formula and connect that even to the motivation. In terms of the mindset is key because typically the mindset piece is really where you can kind of say, it's like the Jim Rohn used to say, it's the set of the sail. So if you have your sail set in a certain way, that's kind of where you're going to, let's say, end up. You know, the rudder is really important as well, but it's kind of like where you're going to end up or how fast you're going to go. So if you have truly the mindset of, let's say, a 7-figure earner, C-level executive, board member, impacting thousands of people to the degree of thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands in terms of impact, it's a likelihood that you're going to end up there versus I can't do this, I don't belong, guys. And I've had all this. I've had so many therapists and coaches to help me just work on my mindset to let those limiting beliefs go and then to input more empowering philosophy. So these are some pieces of that system that I use.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it very much. And as you coach individuals, you also telling them, from what I said, that there's some success, let me get it right, success strategies that you can incorporate, to move up. And one thing, just to prompt you as to where I'm going with this, you say to your men, as I study you, seek a mentor.
Absolutely. So it's interesting because in our community, there's a huge focus on mentoring. Wherever it came from, however it got locked in, it's locked in incredibly firm in our community. So you can talk to a guy who's first year in corporate America. I mean, let's even go young, 23, like just out of college, graduated when he was 21, search for a job. Something happened. He's 22, 23. Just young. His LinkedIn picture, he just looks so young. He's just new to corporate America. And you ask him, what kind of support would you need? He's probably going to say mentorship. I need a mentor. He's not going to say a coach, highly likely. A teacher, an expert, a communication specialist. He's probably going to say mentor. So that was very much locked in our community. And mentors are wonderful things. But I want to point out some differences between a mentor, a therapist, we should talk about that, and a coach. Let's start off, though, with therapists. Therapists are designed to heal wounds from the past. So they don't impact us in the present, impacting us and impacting our self-esteem, emotional. We might be like a nerve because of traumas, abuses, abandonments that happened in our past. Kid, teen, even last year, even yesterday, you name it. So they help to heal all that up. They can't change the past, but they can help to change your relationship with the past so it doesn't impact you today and you can experience a sense of inner peace and freedom. Therapy, guys, key. But the next thing up is going to be a mentor. Mentors typically share their own life experiences of how they achieve success, and the mentee gets to learn, ask questions. How did they do it? How did they overcome this situation? And they have that one-on-one connection. based on the experiences of that person. Now, if you find the right connection with them, which is some of the reasons why kind of cohort-based mentorship or company mentorship programs fail, is because there needs to be a shared kind of shared values and connection, typically for a mentorship to work, not just putting two people together and it's going to work. Because we've had that experience. You put people together and 3 months later they're not talking. They just don't follow up. It's just over. Okay. So that connection is key for a mentorship to really work. One of the limitations on a mentorship is you may not connect with that person, or your individual journey might be a little different. And as a mentor, they may not know how to coach and extract out the value from you. That's a possibility, because they may not have the training on how to do that. They have the expertise on how to reach the level of success that they've reached. So that's the positives and the drawbacks of a mentor, but they're also in economic terms, they're typically free. Therapist, definitely paid relationship. The third one, the last one, also a paid relationship, typically is working with a coach. Coaches, if you think about basketball coach, they've learned the best practices from the team that they're coaching. Let's say they've been coaching 10 years. They've observed what works the best from all of those players. And when the 11th season comes and that new player comes, they know how to show him how to dribble, how to shoot based on how to hold his elbow, because they've seen what the very best do over 10 seasons. And they know how to get that one individual locked in on the best practices. See, that's what a coach can do well. They have that database of not what they've done. They don't even have to be a superstar ball player, but they know the best practices, and they have a skill set on how to teach it to their teammates as well. That's what a coach does. And typically in the corporate community, people start learning about coaches pretty much from all races, I'd have to say, around manager level and then director and on up, and start pivoting away from mentors and toward coaches.
Love it. Okay, well, look, that's great. Look, before I let you go, though, let me ask you this global question. Is there anything else, any tip, strategy that you want to share before we sign off today?
I'd say, because my guess is that people from around the world are listening to this, my demographic, so I'll speak to both briefly, but, speaking to my specific demographic, I'd say stay around positive brothers like Stephen, who are creating platforms and networks that are truly based on possibility. It's incredible when we open our minds up, not just to what the world says we are in a negative light, but leaning into networks of possibility. Your mind will be blown on how far you can go in this world with that kind of support. And then I'll reach outside of, specifically focusing on Black men. The message is absolutely the same. Stay connected with brothers like Stephen and others that have a possibility focused mindset. Your own mind will be blown at who you become with that type of thinking.
Well, look, you just gave me a commercial. I'm going to use it if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. Joel, it was really a pleasure, man, talking with you today. I thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Jewel Love. My name is Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day.
You are not alone, just keep on.